Okay, lesson 6 is going to be on some different styles that we can add to our font. The first thing I'm going to make is a new blank text layer, and I'm going to write curves, and I'm going to duplicate it a couple times by holding Alt, just so I have a couple options. Okay, so it's under here in styles, this A. And what I want to look at is, let's do the half, and let's spread the lines, because that's actually how you sort of really see the effect. And then you can make it bigger or smaller here. If the font is too small, obviously you can bring it up. Here, it's sort of having some kerning issues. So there's one. We can also do in the curves, if we go to the half, we can do the lower half. And we can obviously spread that out as well to make it a little bit more visually interesting. And so you can create sort of like a half circle, 2 half circles. And then just to further illustrate this, there is actually also a circle option. And again, if you spread it, it is going to make it the whole thing. So we'll make it smaller. And we're going to make the font bigger so we can see it. So there you go. And you could, to obviously change the spread, you could also go in and go back to your kerning tab and affect your letter spacing as well, which would also help tighten up the letters or expand them more. So that is the different curve options. The next thing is background. So what I'm going to do is get another type layer, and this time I'm going to write background and show you some different things that it's going to do. So with the background, I'm going to change that color. There we go. And I'm going to make a couple different options as well. So if we go back to that Styles tab, and we go to the Background tab now. So the first thing you can see is if I have regular background, the whole thing, the whole text box goes to the color that I've chosen, which is gray. I can change it to any color and it will modify it. So it's the whole text box, which is sort of interesting. The other thing you can do is create this punch out, which actually is like the negative space, so it removes the font, and it's like the lack of font, which is sort of interesting. And then you can also play around with the offset, so exactly where the position is. I'm going to put that to back. All right, so there's the whole background. The other thing we can do with background, we go to sort of similar things, is we can just do the line of font. I only have one line and one word, so if I did this, it's going to be exactly the same. But I could have a whole line of font here, so let me actually just change that back. There we go. So the whole line in this case is been affected, whereas this is the background. If I just highlight this and go to background and go to Word, it'll actually separate them into separate little blocks, which is sort of interesting. All right. Next one we're going to do is outline. Make a new layer. Oh, sorry, I switched tools by accident. Outline. Okay. And I'm just going to make that a bit smaller so it fits better. And I'll make just a couple of versions of it so that I have options here. All right, so under Styles, if we click on the Outline tab, what you will see is, if I zoom in here, in a second here, if I zoom in, you will see that I'm actually creating an outline around my letters. And in Illustrator, that's actually called stroke. So if we go back here to our outline, I can affect how thick the stroke is. You can see there I'm increasing it, and I can change the color. Might make it a little bit easier to see. I can change the punch out. So the punch out basically means that instead of it being white filled, it is now, there's no fill. So it's clear through the font. And then you can also play around with distance as well. I'll leave that where it was. There's also a direction as well. So just a couple of things that you can play with there. So where we have one with no fill, so let's with this one go in here and do outline and leave it with a color. So we can do, let's do like a green, a bluey green color. And we will increase the size so we can see it there. And then I'm also going to change the inside color just so that it's something a little bit that sort of works with it. Sort of a tone on tone look, which could be interesting. And then here's my other one. And with this one, we will, what will we do? Make it thicker so we can still see it again. And then we can also play around with the direction, the distance, so you can see there the different effects, which is sort of clever. So that is outline in the styles palette. Moving on our styles options. So the last thing we're going to look at is shadows. So zoom in here a little bit, close that ad, and I'm going to make a couple copies just so I have them. And then back in my styles, I'm going to open up the shadow toggle. And again, you can create different colors of a drop shadow, so I'll just change it to red just for fun. You can see it a little bit here. It's hard on that gray transparent background. But I can also affect how much of a blur. I can affect the distance, so how low the shadow drops. I can change the direction, so there now it's above, now it's above on the other side. There it's below, and then I can also affect how sort of dark that shadow is, so the opacity of the shadow. So do play around with those. This time I'm going to change the font to maybe a different color, and then when I do the shadow it'll look even more different. A different color, and sorry, on that, let's change the direction so it's above. Let's make it very dark and make it very blurry. So you can see there's the blur, whereas there's almost like a perfect duplication of the word. And then one more just to have fun. What do you want to do? Do another one. Pick a color. This one's yellow, and again, play around with the softness and the direction. You can do the distance as well. Let's separate that one a bit more. And then, here we go. So now we have 3 shadows as our final example of the different styles that are available in the font section.